We've got breaking news out of golf where the fourth round of the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-AM has been canceled. A storm in the Monterey Peninsula, which postponed play on Sunday, is expected to continue through Monday with strong winds. As a result, Wyndham Clark is the winner, shooting 17 under through 54 holes. It's Clark's third career PGA Tour title alongside the 2020 Bermuda Championship and the 2023 U.S. Open. So, if you look at the pre-tournament odds, Wyndham Clark was at plus 7,000. So there weren't a whole lot of people convinced that he would win. But now he is the winner at 17 under after 54 holes. So congratulations to Mr. Wyndham Clark. And for more on this breaking news, we bring in CBS Sports golf analyst Doug Bell. And Doug, I'll ask you simply put, what went through your mind when you saw the news break that the tournament would be over after just 54 holes?
Well, it doesn't happen very often. I remember I was in New Jersey back in 2011 when Hurricane Irene made that tournament a 54-hole event, and that was a playoff tournament. So it's very rare, but there was no alternative. The weather just made it impossible to play and finish on Monday. Listen, the PGA Tour is the best at what they do, putting on a championship event. Nobody does it better, and they did everything in their power to make this a 72-hole event, and that's the #1 priority. But Mother Nature just wouldn't allow it. Right now, there's shelter in place on Monday. Trees and power lines are down in the area. The golf course is saturated, and maybe they could have gone out and sloshed around a bit, but it's just too dangerous. So the PGA Tour made the prudent call, and Wyndham Clark took advantage of that magnificent 60 on Saturday, and now he gets an absolutely gigantic win here early in this PGA Tour season. A
gigantic win and $3.6 million, Richard. So with all that being said, Doug, what is the significance of Clark getting this win after setting a course record? Because now he could parlay this into some momentum, right?
Well, yeah, and you were talking about the odds early. Think about the 5 winners we've had in the PGA Tour. The odds have been astronomical, so that's something to look forward to and watch the rest of this year. But to answer your question, Wyndham Clark, he's 30 years old. He was not a household name up until last year when he won the Wells Fargo Championship and then the U.S. Open, and then hit kind of an expected slump in the game. He was on the Ryder Cup team, did not play particularly well. 2 events leading into this week, a T39 and a T29, and he said his putting was terrible, and so he really didn't know what to expect, and he comes into this week, and on Saturday, shoots that record-setting 60. No other player in the history of the game has ever gone that low at Pebble Beach. He has the best putting day of his career and likely will never duplicate that again. I mean, these players know how good that was, especially himself. So this sets him up now for an incredible season. Not only that money you talked about, but 700 FedEx Cup points. A regular event, you get 500. Now with these signature events, you get 700. And he's set up for what could be a serious run to the Tour Championship and maybe winning in FedEx Cup. This changes his whole season around, and good for Wyndham Clark. Of course, I'm sure as a competitor, he wanted to play one more day, but then again, why not celebrate? This is a huge win for him, even though it only goes 54 holes.
I would say he's not complaining about having to only play 54 holes and getting all this money and the FedEx Cup points, as you mentioned. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, though, about how the PGA handled all this. A lot of people on social media are furious with the PGA because they said, oh, well, they saw this coming. They should have gotten 36 holes in on Saturday. What's your assessment with how the PGA handled everything from the postponement to now the cancellation of the tournament after 54 holes?
Well, it's easy for those not involved with the PGA Tour and they're watching from the periphery, and it's easy to say, oh, play 36, keep playing until it gets dark. No, these are the best golfers in the world. 72 holes is their priority. There's no question about it. But considering the weather conditions, and again, power lines are down, trees are falling in the road as cars are driving around, the #1 priority is for the safety of the players, the caddies, the volunteers, those people who are working feverishly today trying to get the golf course ready to play. So you have to take all those things into account. Safety is so important. They wanted to play 72 holes, but it would be difficult to continue into Tuesday knowing that the WM Phoenix Open, another big event, is coming up next week, and they have Pro-Ams and things of that nature starting on Wednesday. So the PGA Tour did exactly what they were supposed to do. There was no other alternative. Listen, you can't plan for the weather. And even though the radar said this was coming, it always changes. Curveballs always happen when it comes to weather. But again, let me just reiterate, the PGA Tour, the best at what they do, setting up a championship golf course. And if you're here, if you're actually on property in the area, you know how dangerous things are right now. No other alternative. They did the right thing.
Yeah, so the PGA Tour making an uncomfortable decision, but in the end, as you mentioned, probably the right one, just making sure everybody is safe at the end of the day. Doug Bell, we appreciate your insight as always, man.
Thank you.
And for more golf coverage, make sure to download or watch the First Cut podcast with Rick Gaiman and a host of other golf experts breaking down the best golfers, who's rising up the ranks, who's kind of slowing down, and so much more as far as wagers and bets. We got it all. The First Cut podcast. Download it wherever you get your podcast, baby.